Cips, clips. And remember, citizens, always subscribe and hit the bell. Everything will be well in 1995. Plus, shipping and handling will keep you out of hell. Why does a dog wag its tail? Because a dog is smarter than its tail. If the tail were smarter, the tail would wag the dog. Wag the dog in politics is the act of creating diversion from a damaging issue. Here at Wag the Dog News, the tail doesn't wag the dog. Enjoy. Clips, clip. And remember, citizens, always subscribe. Hit the bell. Everything will be well. 1995. Plus, shipping and handling will keep you out of hell. Alrighty, boob tubes, another one of Clips Clips. Welcome to Wag the Dog News, where the tail doesn't wag the dog. Decipher that. But in the afternoon one, and all thanks for everybody that joins, will join, will watch, has watched, watch upside down, sideways, all that good stuff. Stick a wee thumbs up, it's much appreciated. Makes me sleep at night endlessly. Beautiful dreams of My Little Ponies and rainbows and everything. So feel free to stick a wee thumbs up, it is much appreciated. In the afternoon, Martin. Down below as well is Hunnels on our social media links, if anybody uses them. I don't know, YouTube is a very volatile place nowadays with the info war and full spectrum dominance. So best be prepared, I'm thinking. And it's a couple of clicks of one button can transfer your whole fucking back catalogue, whole back library. It makes a mirror, a backup, which is pretty good. So anywho, welcome one and all. And Wag the Dog News, where the tail doesn't wag the dog, and we look at both sides. So I'm becoming to realise, because I'm pretty much new to watching the news again, the Great Britain news is pish. That's quite interesting. I don't know if these have clocked it. While RT is blocked globally through a lot of means, John Bolton's doing the rounds on a lot of their talk shows. This is not the only one. I don't know if this is a repeat or the one that he's been on maybe a week or so ago that I got. I don't know, she would make a good dominatrix, but I'm thinking of like a career counsellor here, because she might be out of work soon. Now, let's see if RT is going to behave itself and do top of the hour news. It proved me to be a liar yesterday, but this morning I've been watching it. I'm trying to watch it again, and you just keep getting package at the top of the hour. So I don't know what they're doing with their news, but it is what it is.
Большинство из пострадавших это были мирные жители. На местах их дислокации были обнаружены.
I just love RT must pay a fortune out in music royalties, man. Must pay an absolute fortune out. Right, is this the topic?
Объектов разрушено. Более 2000
Fuck's sake, man, I've like played. There's been Sylvester Stallone and Schwarzenegger films with less dramatic music in it.
Никогда после этого всего мириться или возвращаться.
See, for some reason that music reminds me of like Command and Conquer fucking computer game music. Doodle-doo, doodle-doo. Boop, boop, doop, 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 Rocky.
I'm being told that every day more and more of such trophy weapons fall in the hands of the Russian troops.
One of our correspondents on the ground in Ukraine gets hands-on with some of the seized Western weapons which are pouring into the country despite US-led calls for peace. Fighting intensifies for the key Ukrainian city of Mariupol as the Russian military presses on with its drive to clear out nationalist forces who are using civilian buildings for cover. Arnold Schwarzenegger's pro-Kiev stance on the conflict gets terminated.
Oh my God,
by a
look at his
Russian
face.
powerlifter and activist.
He's been hanging around with Joe Biden. They've both got the same eyes. What the fuck is it with these old fucking pasty motherfuckers? Fucking can't open their eyes when they get to a certain age. Trying to like fucking look like Clint Eastwood.
Who knows what people in Donbass have really been through. Mariana Naumova told us she's paid a heavy price for her position on the conflict.
To be honest with you, I've been receiving threats for 8 years, so I'm not bothered anymore. Because after my first visit to Donbass, I was immediately put on a list of terrorists in Ukraine.
As Western politicians and the media continue to criticize Russia over its operation in Ukraine, we look at how they covered the US-led invasion of Iraq all too differently.
Oh, come on, RT, that's just too easy, man. You need to step up your game, do something that a fucking daft YouTuber can't fucking do, man.
A warm welcome. You're watching RT International. It's good to have your company.
Well, hello there, Nikki.
Well, first, let's wrap up the latest from the conflict over Ukraine. Canada says it will use private sector resources to provide more weaponry to Kiev. That's amid discussion of further EU sanctions on Russian gas. Meanwhile, Serbia...
You put the petrol on the fire and you light it all up. You put the petrol on the fire and you light it all up. You put the you know, you heard that one? It's called put the petrol in the fire and you light it all up. Or is it you put the lime in the coconut and snort it all up? But I don't know, but you put the petrol in the fire and you light it all up. I think that's a lovely lyric.
Serbia's president has called on Bulgaria to continue transiting Russian gas to it.
Uncle Bulgaria, what the fuck's the Womble's got to do with this shit?
Its country. And Hungary's foreign minister says Budapest will veto EU sanctions on Russian gas imports. Well, the EU has approved a new strategic compass security doctrine, which it says will strengthen the bloc's security amid the war in Ukraine. Well, Canada is now also in the news over sending weapons to Ukraine. His foreign minister says the country is bringing in the private sector to help send more arms to Kiev.
You put the petrol on the fire and you light it all up. The conference
was interrupted by a political activist and writer who accused Melanie Joly of provoking a global conflict.
Et puis aussi...
The war. Go to NATO. Shame on you. You're going to push us to World War III. Shame on you. Go to war. Stop sending weapons.
While NATO countries have refused to enforce a no-fly zone in Ukraine, the US-led bloc is stepping up its arms shipments to Kiev, fueling the fire of the fighting in Ukraine despite openly calling for peace there.
They're pouring petrol on the fire and they're lighting it all up. They're pouring petrol on the fire and they're lighting it all up.
To defend their policy of escalation.
The United States delivered $650 million in military equipment.
Yeah, here man, stick a tash on that cunt. That's fucking Bashar al-Assad or whatever his name is. Remember the old Hitler, right? The new Hitler before the new Hitler.
Our allies and partners have stepped up to provide significant shipments of security assistance.
Hitler must be so fucking proud, man. He's
as well.
Russian
partly died with one ball.
Ukraine,
if that's
once a
to be believed.
Now the world's largest
and
but
his legacy goes on. I mean, this cunt fucking spews out fucking kin, fucking left, right, and centre.
It's a weapons buffet for the Ukrainian military, from small arms to advanced anti-tank and anti-aircraft missiles. American foes seem eager to make Kiev's every request come true. Western-made weapons are in such abundance, the Ukrainian forces have no second thoughts leaving them behind on the retreat, like a trail of breadcrumbs. Well, and here you have the infamous American-made Javelin, an anti-tank single-use missile. Here, it's, well, rather, the German-made Panzerfaust, the same Panzerfaust, just a better, a more...
Well, we're letting those Nazi bastards build weapons again, fuck's sake.
A modern version of the same unit, of the same missile used by the Nazi Germany against Soviet troops during the
Nazis.
Second World War. Arguably, these, well, complexes, these missiles, they cause the most problems for the Russian army. But I'm being told that every day, more and more of such trophy weapons fall in the hands of the Russian troops. The factory packaging even contains this Panzerfaust anti-tanks weapons passport.
Method
and
Man
that's
in the
when the
afternoon.
unpleasant truth about its foreign origin comes out. Apparently, this particular RPG was decommissioned by Germany.
I know, Kirks. You want to hear the crazy? Well, I don't know. The bizarreness of all this shit, right? Think of how recently the Western powers pulled out of Afghanistan, and when they pulled out of Afghanistan, they left basically every bit of military hardware that they couldn't put in their fucking pocket. Everything. Billions and billions of dollars of military equipment. Why no fucking somehow, some way facility? Here, Ukrainians, here fucking Sergei. Here fucking piano dick playing Hey, dick piano playing president. Easy for me to say. Fuck off over to Afghanistan and take that shit off of brown people and you can have it. Because we clearly like the white people with blonde hair and blue eyes a lot better. That's why their refugees are getting the carpet rolled out for them and getting special sponsorship status.
All the way back in 2013. Now, American Stinger missiles are a common threat for Russia's helicopter pilots.
As we flew over enemy territory in a Ka-52 helicopter, the enemy fired from the ground. The aircraft was hit. When Stinger missiles are detected, the aircraft's onboard defense system engages and fires decoy flares. It's a reliable technique and lets you get out of the situation.
In fact, some pundits are concerned of a looming security catastrophe.
You see that, children? How cool and brave the Russian soldiers and pilots and all that are? They are just the best in the world. Apart from the next fucking armed forces dickhead that stands up in front of you and tells you that they're the best in the world. Blair and Clinton? What Clinton method, man? What one? Bill, was he still alive? Intervention, oh fucking hell. You know they're bouncing about and like calling Putin a war criminal and he's going to have to be held account and the people that have done these crimes are going to have to be held account. What about fucking Blair and Bush? They never get held account to any degree whatsoever. In fact, Blair get fucking pimped around fucking the higher echelons of business, making a fortune, talking shite for a living, and he also became a sir, I do believe. Killery.
Potentially caused by such a flood of indiscriminate weapons in Ukraine.
You have all the markings of what the CIA did in Afghanistan, arming and training the Mujahideen with billions of dollars against Russia.
God,
you have the same markings with what the CIA did with Timber Sycamore in Syria, which is much the same, arming and training these extremist factions in order to serve as proxy forces to take out an opposing state. The real question is whether Russia will be able to move fast enough to cut off these supply lines.
Well, as the US increases its weapons supplies to Ukraine, some politicians in Washington say the White House is using Kiev to wage a proxy war against Russia. Caleb Morpin has the story.
What do you mean?
It appears that U.S. officials have been mulling over the idea of setting up a proxy war with Russia in Ukraine.
T2, exactly, mate. I mean, like, it's... There is no justice. It's selective justice, isn't it? Also, as well, in fact, I will rant and talk shite about the chemical weapon pish that's getting regurgitated as well right now.
Since 2014. And now, with Joe Biden 1 year into office, it looks like...
Oh my god, he's the worst formist fucking robot. He's an American-Russian robot. Oh my god. Fuck off back to RT America. Shit, if I fuck it, no, I'm using the rumble thing so I can pause it. Better not slipped onto RT America.
Like the plan is being put into action.
And so there are a number of things that we would expect to have seen that we just haven't seen. And the Russians really have had some, that's presented them some problems. So many of their assumptions have not proved.
International law is just whatever lawyers argue the best bullshit. That's why when lawyers are arguing a point, they're in a court. It's a fucking game. It's a play on words. It's not legit, genuine. Here's a straight line we need to go down. It's all twist and shout, twist and shout. Come on, come on, come on, come on now, baby now. That's what it is like in a courtroom. We gotta work it all out.
Proven to be true as they
It looks like the plan moves ahead with $13 billion being sent to Ukraine, along with a new cache of weapons. The idea for a proxy war, having been in the works for a long time, is now confirmed by a former U.S. Secretary of Defense.
We are engaged in a conflict here. It's a proxy war with Russia, whether we say so or not. That effectively is what's going on. And the way you get leverage is by, frankly, going in and killing Russians.
Congressman Adam Schiff has further expounded.
Woo! This is like Grand Theft Auto and it's brilliant. Rockstar Games should pay attention to this and do Grand Theft Auto Politician Edition. Works, done it. Grand Theft Auto, man! The Politician Edition! And instead of just like your wee petty fucking run of your mill fucking G's, gangsters, dons and all that shit. You actually run countries, just throwing tanks about and shit, fucking left, right, centre. Fucking, oh man, that is the true Grand Theft Auto Politician Edition.
Upon the idea.
Most critically, the military aid that we provide Ukraine helps to protect and advance American national security interests in the region and beyond. America has an abiding interest in stemming Russian expansionism and resisting any nation's efforts to remake the map of Europe by dint of military force, even as we have tens of thousands of troops stationed there. Moreover, as one witness put it during our impeachment inquiry, the United States aids Ukraine.
Inquiry, you dumbass fucking American. Here's a fucking Scotsman that can't speak or read English telling you how to fucking speak English. You Yankee Doodle Dandy. Inquiry.
Ukraine and her people so that we can fight Russia over there and we don't have to fight Russia here.
There's nothing particularly new about the...
We'll fight the Russia over there. We'll fight the Russia over here. They're here, they're here. We'll keep you in the fear. We do the hokey cokey and we talk some more pish. That's what it's all about. Woo!
The idea of getting Russia bogged down in a long-term proxy conflict in a country along its borders. That concept goes back to late Cold War geopolitical strategist Zbigniew Brzezinski.
If the major cities, say Kharkiv, say Kiev, were to resist and street fighting became a necessity, it would be prolonged and costly. And the fact of the matter is, and this is where the timing of this whole crisis is important, Russia is not yet ready to undertake that kind of an effort.
Brzezinski also made some interesting predictions about Ukraine. He said they will never join NATO.
But at the same time, there should be clarity that Ukraine will not be a member of NATO. I think that is important for a variety of political reasons.
Brzezinski also bragged about what he called the Afghan trap, setting up a situation where the Soviet Union felt obligated to intervene in Afghanistan and then bogging them down with a long-term war. He bragged about giving the Soviet Union a, quote, Vietnam to weaken the country. So apparently, U.S. leaders claim to care about Ukrainians while they're setting the country up for a long-term war. Caleb Maupin, RT, New York.
Investigative reporter Alex Rubinstein says the West is using the conflict to chip away at Russia's economic and military power.
The United States and in Europe are making statements to the effect of this being kind of a long war. And the goal of that is an Afghan-style operation where they use this proxy conflict to chip away at Russian morale, the Russian economy, the Russian military, etc. They're kind of dangling the NATO membership in front of Zelensky and at the same time just using him as a pawn to increase hostilities of Russia. The one thing that does distinguish this, and I think that this is an effect of there just being so much animosity in the West against Russia, is they're doing this all out in the open. With Operation Cyclone in Afghanistan, the CIA hid it for years. The same thing with Timber Sycamore in Syria. Here it's being done in the open because they can. And that's really the scary part about it, is because it shows that the great power competition is an accepted doctrine for the West.
Well, meanwhile, fighting over the key Ukrainian port city of Mariupol has intensified. This exclusive drone footage shows the aftermath
Don't you want to go there for your holidays?
Russian and Ukrainian forces, which include nationalist battalions. A local journalist affiliated with RT says these two 9-story buildings have been cleared of nationalist fighters, but they continue to fire from another building which has not been targeted by Russia yet. The fighting is ongoing, with residents who haven't escaped via the humanitarian corridors hiding in basements. Our affiliated reporter has the latest on Ukraine's tactics.
With the Donetsk militia units, I entered one of the 9-story buildings. This is the apartment of a local resident. Azov militants hit the advancing forces from this balcony, and therefore, whether the Donetsk militia fighters like it or not, they had to destroy the homes of civilians. Thus, the humanitarian situation is deteriorating due to the actions of Azov militants.
Meanwhile, in Kiev, the city's mayor has declared a curfew to keep civilians off the streets during potential nighttime attacks. That's after at least 8 people were reportedly killed during a bombing of a non-functional shopping centre in the city. Nearby buildings were also heavily damaged. Russia's defense ministry explained that it targeted the shopping centre because it was being used as a heavy weapons base by the Ukrainian military. Moscow released this drone footage of the site showing Ukrainian armed vehicles parking at the mall and even opening fire from the location. Russia's defense ministry said it would not target civilian infrastructure without a justifiable reason. Ukraine's military forces have previously been accused of using civilian buildings as bases.
And it's things like that and counter-narratives now, whether that's legit, genuine, who the fuck knows, they've got video footage, whether, I don't know if you're in that camp, but everything's a green screen and everything's made up and polystyrene, and I'm aware of how, to what degrees things can get faked, but nobody's arguing there's a war going on here. It's to control the narrative and to get the best visuals out. And during the war, things like this shit's getting blown up. This is BBC will tell you one story. Oh my god, the Russians are blowing up a fucking shopping centre! Right, and then they shut down RT so you can't look at the counter-narrative, and the counter-narrative is, well, aye, we did fucking hit the shopping centre, but here's some footage of, like, heavy armor or whatever we're calling it, heavy like weapons of war getting used and manoeuvred and kept in and around that shopping centre. Which makes you go, alright, okay, so what happened? The Russian military, who are a professional military, some of the undebatably some of the best military minds and strategians, strategists, that's the word I'm looking for. Some of the best military strategists in the world. Some people wouldn't, it's hard to argue against. Did they wake up one morning and go, right, what are you trying to do today? You go around, oh, let's like bomb a fucking shopping centre. Let's go and take out fucking Wimpies. Let's go and take out M&S. I heard their sandwiches are fueling the war effort and killing all our our soldiers. Or did they have military intelligence captured by a drone that says that this is where they're keeping shit? It'd be worthwhile blowing it up. I don't know, man. Again, get your phone out and you call Bono and ask Bono. See, when Bono comes on the phone, you just go, Q Bono. And then if you Q Bono, after you phone him, you will get a better idea of what's really going on here between the lines. But I digress.
Verified photo taken by a resident of Kiev is believed to show the Ukrainian military equipment located near that mall. The picture was previously posted online days before Russian forces bombed the shopping centre, but was later deleted by the author.
I posted a video on TikTok showing the movement of Ukrainian military vehicles. They were in the vicinity of the Retroville shopping center. There were 2 self-propelled howitzers.
Kiev's mayor Vitaly Klitschko has commented on the recent
social media getting used as military fucking social media getting used as military intelligence gathering tools, man, you know. On the TikTok, I seen the 2 howitzers next to the shopping centre.
Also claiming that schools and kindergartens were damaged in the attack.
The enemy can.
You know, fuck me, man. Ukraine, is it a country or a fucking circus? You've got a president that plays the piano with his dick and a fucking mayor of the capital city whose nose is fucking spread so far fucking over his face you don't know what jurisdiction he's fucking in. Fuck's sake. He'd been punched so much in the fucking head, his brain cells are fucking died away, man. It's like getting fucking Mike Tyson or Frank Bruno or something in charge of fucking the UK or America. Fucking hell.
Continues to
listen, you don't even need to know this. Like, thank fuck this shit's getting translated, otherwise you would hear the pure fuck me, man.
The capital. A shopping center burned down and 6 residential buildings were damaged as a result of the shelling. 3 of them have been rendered uninhabitable. 8 people were killed. The premises of 2 schools and 2 kindergartens were also damaged.
Mate, the Klitschkos have no idea what's going on, man. They're just like... You know what I mean, man? They're just getting pointed in directions and... Hey, listen, are you capable of speaking today? Quick, give him his injection. Shh! Right, roll him in front of the camera! Quick, before the injection runs out!
And recently, an ABC journalist has reported on a Ukrainian school that he called, quote, a massive military warehouse, confirming Moscow's accusations that Kiev is using civilian infrastructure for military needs. As the conflict in Ukraine continues to unfold, it's become somewhat of a trend for celebrities to weigh in on the situation. One of them is Hollywood star and former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, who recorded a special
What is it with these fucking absolute fucking numbnuts, man? Oh, God.
video for Russians, but some noted a slight bias.
I'm sending this message through various different channels to reach my dear Russian friends. Ukraine is a country with a Jewish president, I might add, whose father's 3 brothers were all murdered by the Nazis. You see, Ukraine did not start this war, neither did nationalists or Nazis. Those in power in the Kremlin started this war.
One of the Russians who don't agree with Arnold's message is powerlifting world champion Mariana.
Yes, the Nazis didn't start this war because I was in California. All the Nazis are now sitting pretty over in America. We're in charge of NATO, NASA. Also, we seem to be in charge of we can't open our fucking pasty white cunts that can't fucking open their eyes club. What the fuck is it with these cunts, man? But you just hit a certain age and the muscles to open your fucking eyelids stop functioning.
And at Naumova, unlike the famous actor, Mariana has actually been to Donbass in eastern Ukraine more than 20 times, in fact, and has seen the struggle of people there over the past 8 years. She's also well known as an activist who's helped local children. Back in 2015, she met with Arnold to personally hand him letters from kids in Donbass. But as Marina told us, it appears the American star didn't even read those cries for help.
I think if he had even paid attention to the letters or read them, there would have been some other reaction when he recorded his video. Or maybe he would have taken some action before that. But I can't blame him because I'm sure that he adheres to the policy of his state as a US citizen. You need to share a kind of image you aspire to be, like I do. And thanks to this image, I also achieved great successes in sport and social activities. But of course, as a person, Arnold really disappointed me. To be honest with you, I've been receiving threats for 8 years, so I'm not bothered anymore. Because after my first visit to Donbass, I was immediately put on a list of terrorists in Ukraine. I was labeled a government peacekeeper and immediately started to receive threats from Kiev, from soldiers, even from ordinary people. I had to change my phone number several times.
Have you heard that they're trying to change the rules and regulations or whatever in and around the Nobel Peace Prize to give it to this Zelensky cunt? Now, if Zelensky gets the Nobel Peace Prize, man, that'll be his ultimate joke, won't it? He'd definitely reached the pinnacle of his comedian career. That is the biggest fucking... But Obama done that as well, man. Killed more people than Bush and shit. With drones and stuff. Anyway, we need a score chart. See who had the most points in the Grand Theft Auto Politician Edition.
Constantly had my online accounts hacked. This, of course, is very unpleasant, but I'm already used to it.
Lies and more lies, I will be back.
Visas, an opportunity to become the best in my sport some time ago. I understand that all these prizes are cool, but not as cool as being a human who can really make a difference for others. To be honest, many people nowadays do not understand the difference between truth and lies, but I hope that soon, because there's so many revelations about fake news, people will begin to understand what is really happening in the world, and where there's nothing but lies and nonsense.
Yes, and you will get it on RT, because we rap the truth to you. Okay? Dumb ass Western capitalist dogs.
Schwarzenegger, who calls for an end to the special operation in Ukraine and heavily criticizes the Russian government for it, has taken a different stance to some of the actions of his own country. During the 2003 US
pretty sure was Schwarzenegger's granddad known the SS? Or is that just an internet rumour?
US invasion of Iraq. Not only did he support the invasion, but also travelled to Iraq personally twice to boost the morale of American troops.
Who's Schwarzenegger?
Because there's no one that I know that doesn't sometimes ask themselves that question, why am I doing this? Is it worth it?
Well, some have pointed to...
Zico! An Austrian son of a... an Austrian with the lineage of Nazi SS dudes in his lineage, getting a big bunch of Americans to go and die in vain in Babylon.
The hypocrisy of Schwarzenegger closing his eyes to the actions of his adopted country in the
Closing
US.
his eyes! Fucking his eyes are permanently closed, Hen. Have you no fucking seen him recently? Better start paying attention if you want to keep this fucking gig as a talking head on the RTs.
As we mark the 19th anniversary of Washington's invasion of Iraq, where hundreds of thousands lost their lives, RT's Rachel Blevins reports.
It has been 19 years.
Oh, everything's down to Putin right now, T2. The whole weaponised media, social media, the old school media, every form of media, even the media that you think isn't media, because that's the shit that works on you, you know. Propaganda only works if you don't know it's propaganda, and at some level we're all getting influenced by the shit that we know tells you the truth. And everything is Russia's fault right now, or Putin's fault in particular, which is kind of fucked up. But it's mental. I mean, you can use analogies and comparisons and stuff. During the war in Iraq, right? Let's say the world. The world order wouldn't have allowed it because we were king of the world order back then. But let's say the world order back then was capable of like putting the UK and America and their allies on the naughty step, internationally speaking, for what they were doing in Iraq, kicking them out of fucking payment systems, trade, sanctions, the whole fucking exactly what's happening with Russia. All our lords and rich business people getting sanctioned in other countries and abroad and shit like that. Just imagine that. Just imagine that, man. I mean, it's to say it's one rule for the royal us, the royal we, and another for them is an understatement. I mean, we really do stay in a world that's structured in the sense that the people, the real high flyers, they do stay in the Acropolis. They do walk above us. They can walk among us, but they do walk above us. They're not governed by any laws whatsoever. They make it up as they go along. Time and time again, we've seen this. I mean, if it's not fucking Jill Dando just getting shut the fuck up, and some random getting blamed for years, and then later, oh, we made him. I mean, it's there's people who are, there's untouchables, man. That's basically what I'm saying. There is untouchables. Whether you want to use the analogy of the are staying in the Acropolis and they walk among us, and this shit is just pieces on the chessboards, and they'll be quite happy to move them around. Anyway, let's get back do this talking head.
Since the U.S. and its allies invaded Iraq. The anniversary comes at a time when the architects of the Iraq War and the politicians who supported the U.S. occupation of the country in the
Give me
years to follow
Himmler over Swartz
are
any
now
day of the
expressing
week.
their concern over the well-being of civilians in Ukraine.
I think he is a war criminal. Intentionally targeting civilians is a war crime. After all the destruction of the past 3 weeks, I find it difficult to conclude that the Russians are doing otherwise.
Did I see? Oh no, this isn't a fucking.
But those
Keep
concerns were
forgetting it,
nowhere to
Kenny.
be found back in 2003 when the Bush administration launched its
Rewind.
quest for weapons of mass destruction.
As much as I
It
would
launched
like.
an invasion into Iraq, which it proudly described as shock and awe.
Shutting the country down would entail both the physical destruction of appropriate infrastructure and the shutdown and control of the flow of all vital information and associated commerce so rapidly as to achieve a level of national shock akin to the effect that dropping nuclear weapons on Hiroshima and Nagasaki had on the Japanese.
And make no mistake
baby.
about it, the Bush administration's
Sounds great, doesn't
deadly
it?
approach was widely praised by the media at the time.
This is Fox News and Fox News Channel continuing coverage of the campaign which now has begun to liberate and disarm Iraq.
To know that they can execute these missions into Baghdad and have everybody come back safe and sound is a testament to, as Frank put it, the professionalism of these people.
And also waving to the troops as they went by, giving them the thumbs up, and the soldiers themselves feeling a certain sense of relief, waving back. So the only thing that was shot back and forth between the two was a sense of gratitude, apparently. And it seemed to have gone reasonably well.
One wee random brown
Devastating
cunt.
civilian casualties it caused, the term shock and awe became so popular in the aftermath of the invasion that
Probably
trademark
trying to hit
applications
Bush with
soared for
a
everything
sandal.
from energy drinks to video games. But the reality of the Iraq War was far, far different than the media coverage. Hundreds of civilians were killed and thousands wounded by the US-led coalition in incidents involving the still yet to be universally banned WMDs, according to Iraq Body Count, which maintains the largest public database on casualties related to the invasion. While the killing of civilians was rarely shown by the media, it was made public by WikiLeaks, which published the raw footage of U.S. Apache helicopters firing indiscriminately on civilians in July 2007, killing over a dozen people, including 2 Reuters journalists. WikiLeaks also released cables revealing the U.S. military's horrific treatment of Iraqi detainees, along with evidence that they failed to investigate hundreds of reports of abuse, torture, rape, and murder by Iraqi police
That's
and
right, I
soldiers.
forgot about the pictures of the fucking torture that was going on, man. In Abu Ghraib or something. Oh, that was a pretty cool one. Oh, that's the journalists. Yeah, man. Like, that's
And
said
for those
Grand
who did
Theft
survive,
Auto.
Many are still dealing with the consequences
Politician
of the
edition,
invasion to
motherfuckers.
this day, which include ongoing health issues, as well as continued reports of children being born with severe birth defects. But even though the United Nations Secretary General declared that the U.S. invasion of Iraq was illegal and violated the UN Charter back in 2004, the architects of the Iraq War continue to walk free to this day. And it's not just Iraq. Over the last 20 years, the U.S. and its allies have dropped more than 300.
Jesus, man, this fucking how many years have been hearing this shit? Like, on like, how many YouTube channels endlessly? And then there's been so many wars and whatnot since Iraq that it's went on at the back burner. But with Ukraine now happening, it's now getting brought back to the front burner. With all the analogies, and you know, I love that. I don't love. It's funny. It's ironic how Russia isn't even denying all this shit, and they're going, "Well, hey, look, you're the ones that invented the term collateral damage. We're telling you why we're hitting what you're claiming to be civilian houses and infrastructure. We're telling the United Nations, we'll get it documented, we're pretty much signposting that we're going to hit these places before we hit them. And Iraq Iraq, and that's their defence. We're doing no worse than what yous have done. No worse than what yous have done.
Heavy-handed approach, which focused more on the destruction of military objectives and less on reducing the impact of war on civilian populations. Russia is more morally grounded in its defense of the Russian-speaking citizens of Donbass who were subjected to 8 years of unrelenting violence by the Ukrainian government. They had much more justification in going to their defense than the United States had in pursuing falsified claims of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq.
Some Western news outlets have painted a rather rosy picture of Ukraine's war effort and seem to be happy with relaying virtually anything Ukraine is showing them. RT's Don Coulter has the story.
Western propaganda has painted a very pretty picture of the Ukrainian war effort, but that's all it is, a picture. As for what's really going on, it's hard to tell since dash cams have been banned across the country. Without any spontaneous shots of what's really going on, many foreign volunteers are getting a hard dose of reality upon arriving to fight Kiev's war.
It's chaotic right now. It's disorganized, and you get yourself in trouble very quickly if you're not with a sensible, switched-on group of people.
We're pretty upset that we're in the middle of a combat zone with small arms fire on the road, bombs being dropped almost every day, and we haven't been given our weapons yet just because of bureaucracy and paperwork.
It should come as no surprise since Kiev has literally banned broadcasting anything other than one state channel on TV. All the while, Western media are relentlessly glorifying any and all Ukrainians, no matter what they're up to.
In Dnipro, crowds of women spent Saturday making Molotov cocktails.
Woohoo!
Teachers, lawyers, housewives, all crouched on the grass, filling bottles. They told me they try not to think about what they're doing. They didn't choose
says
this, but
community
they have to be ready
is
to defend
dead?
their city.
When the facts are in short supply, though, propagandists need to make use of myths. Most people have already heard of the ghost of Kiev, who shot down 10 Russian jets, or the valiant Ukrainian troops of Snake Island, who fought till the bitter end resisting a Russian attack. But it's likely fewer people know that these two stories are complete works of fiction. Sometimes the media accidentally create fake heroes, with no guarantee that viewers will see their retractions. Other times, legends are intentionally created, especially when Kiev is trying to scare Europeans.
Let's see.
Woohoo! Is that the Eiffel Tower?
You are good at editing videos. In this game, we will wonder what is the truth in your images you transmit. In the end, by dint of playing this game, you risk losing. Think about it.
I do not support the war, but I say this shows the extent to which the scene and news in Ukraine can be falsified in their favor.
And you not support these fucking robots sounding fucking translating fucks. They hurt. They are beginning to hurt my ears.
Manipulation and disinformation by the Kremlin is applied as an operational tool in its assault on Ukraine. It is also a significant and direct threat to the Union's public order and security.
Fake stories of bravery and sacrifice, censoring alternative viewpoints, just add a glorified
Do you know
hero leader to the
what,
mix,
T2, I was thinking about that earlier on, the depleted uranium.
Into their meeting. Calm but determined.
That seems to have died a death. Nobody really seems to talk about that as much as they used to.
This might be the last time they would see him alive. The enemy has marked me as target number 1.
Do they still get used?
My family as target number 2.
Right. Sorry, that is enough. I'm going to do BBC, man. That great bit of news is pathetic.
The chemical weapons are not going to be as effective as he hopes because civilians know what to do. Maybe he won't use them. And a lot of your actions in a chemical are
quick
gay rights campaign.
Amal Rajan interviews Ian McKellen. Saturday at 9:30 on the BBC.
Rated actors in the world. The rings as he is.
Boom, 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 in the room, 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 room. No zoom, 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 but in the room with the doom. In the room with the doom.
Ukraine's President Zelensky says his country is on the brink of surviving its war with Russia. It comes as President Biden warns that Vladimir Putin may use...
Hold on a second. The BBC News confuses me no end. Zelensky comes out and says that we're gonna fucking survive. Woo! What happened to winning? Fighting them in the fucking chandeliers, on the rooftops, in the submarines, in the love shack. Hey, what happened to fucking Churchill's speeches? No, it's I think we might survive.
Chemical or biological weapons in Ukraine because his back is now against the wall.
That's news. I love it, man. Even all the outlets and stuff since Biden's came out and said this shit, like they even come out and said he's offered no evidence, but he says because his back's against the wall. Well, hold on a sec. Zelensky's still out there begging for fucking any trinkets for the West to help this war effort. It's now changed from, we're going to win, we're winning, to, we might survive. While all the time, Putin has made no concessions in his demands, and the peace shit, his main shit remains there. But little penis piano playing president is out saying, we'll definitely not go into NATO and we won't do this and we won't do that and we wouldn't need to put it to a referendum, but we can do it. But they're winning. He's David Brent. They've turned into David Brent. Anyway, sorry, let's get back to David Brent.
He's considering using both of those. He's already used chemical weapons in the past, and we should be careful what's about to come. He knows there'll be severe consequences.
When is Putin used chemical weapons? They keep going out here talking about Putin with selective history and stuff. I don't think so. This is selective history. Where the fuck has Putin ever used chemical weapons? Or let's be technical, been proven to use chemical weapons? And, I mean, can you really have a world... I don't know if any of you clocked the thumbnail I had. This guy's a fucking little girl sniffing Mr. Magoo looking geriatric motherfucker. Most powerful man in the world. Open your fucking eyes.
Consequences.
The other headlines this lunchtime. Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny is sentenced to 9 more years in prison in a trial his supporters say was a sham. P&O Ferries bosses have until 5 o'clock to explain their decision to sack 800 members of staff without notice.
I thought his supporters would have came out and said that was a good deal.
17-month-old toddler killed in Merseyside by a dog bought only last week has been named as Bella Ray Birch. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge continue their Caribbean tour, marking the Queen's Platinum Jubilee year.
And coming up on the BBC News Channel, the bidding battle continues over Chelsea, as fans could now be in attendance for the FA Cup semi-final after government talks on their licence.
Kirk's, very early on in this, I heard them talking about... do you know what, by the way, Kirk's? I think you've just answered my question. I think that's maybe what they're referring to as Putin being known to use chemical weapons. They're talking about the Skirples. Am I pronouncing that right? The Skirples. The Skirples. Good shout, Cuts. That's what they must be talking about when they're... I thought they were trying to pin all that shit in Syria on Russia. Because at the time, who did they blame? I think they blamed Assad and his barrel bombs. You know, you're meant to be killing people this way, not that way. Have you read the rulebook of how to kill people properly? The more Ukrainians we take, the less Nigerians, Syrians, Sudanese, Gypsies we have to take.
against the war.
Every
and warned
cloud,
that he may
mate.
now use chemical or biological weapons against Ukraine. Well, it comes as Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has said his country is on the brink of surviving its war with Russia in a speech to Italian MPs this morning. His country's forces have slowed down.
This guy is a fucking whore, man. Is there any fucking parliament this guy hasn't whored himself out to? I don't know why this guy's getting held in such high esteem. He was a nothing nobody. Anyway.
The enemy advance, Russian forces shown here in red, have failed to make much headway over the last week. But residents of the Ukrainian city of Boryspil, about 25 miles from the capital, Kyiv, have been asked to leave the area if they can, as fighting against Russian forces draws closer. Well, our Ukraine correspondent James
Mr.
Woodhouse
Magoo's away.
sent us this report from the capital, Kyiv.
Kyiv!
Everyone downstairs. Not something you'd expect to hear in a hospital
it's
until
Hypno,
26 days ago. But this is war, and the southern city of Mykolaiv, like so many others, is struggling to escape it.
I'm scared, but I have nowhere to go, no place to escape to. We have our roots here. We can't run away.
Russia has Mykolaiv in its sights.
Well, Kirks, you make a very interesting point, right? And like, I think when you're trying to get your head around what's really going on in these circumstances, to not consider that a lot of these things have been long planned out, long in the making, long in the pipeline. So, whatever happened with the Skurples and Novichok or whatever it was, and it looking like it could have came from Portadown, and then as what's transpiring now, or even in Syria, as they used the chemical weapon shit as a extra wee leverage, wasn't it? And modern warfare is a lot of it's down to the information, isn't it? And chemical and biological warfare is something that is a tool that you can use to paint the other side in a negative light, let's say.
Its people are already paying for standing their ground. Here a soldier's family lay him to rest. Mariupol is expected to fall in weeks, if not days, after weeks of being surrounded and cut off. This footage filmed from a drone showing factories being destroyed in the city.
By whom?
Also a city under attack and once again under a curfew. It's around here where the majority of Russian forces are thought to be. But they haven't made any real gains here. And that's why they're resorting to longer range artillery fire. Military experts in the US, as you can hear, military experts in the US reckon most of Russia's advances are continuing to stall because of poor planning. President Zelensky is hoping that will pull Moscow towards the negotiating table, but the US is making much darker predictions. The Kremlin's once again accused of trying to create a false justification to escalate things even further by claiming Ukraine is poised to use more lethal weapons without offering any evidence.
His back is against the wall, and now he's talking about new false flags he's setting up, including he's asserting that we, America, have biological as well as chemical weapons in Europe. Simply not true.
Right. Semantics. Victoria Nuland came out and admitted, I think she admitted to at least 2 biological research labs inside Ukraine. Now, what's the difference between a research lab and a weapon facility? Right? So, maybe the research lab is here, and right next door to it just coincidentally as a missile fucking factory. Maybe, I don't know the semantics to this, but it isn't fucking hard if you've got fucking biological or chemical agent X, Y or Z to load it onto a missile. If you have fucking, like Ukraine does, missile production capabilities. I mean, these people really rely on people's ignorances, and like people have busy lives or have fucking other shit to worry about other than what's going on halfway around the world. That's why they rely on wee 30 snippets for fucking Mr. Magoo here. And Mr. Magoo and whoever's writing his script rely on motherfucker people's ignorances to just blindly believe these big broad brushstrokes of fear-mongering bullshit to just demonise one side or the other.
I guarantee you. They're also suggesting that Ukraine has biological and chemical weapons in Ukraine. That's a clear sign he's considering using both of those.
All in the hope it would ultimately lead to Kiev falling, its biggest prize. The Kremlin says not enough progress has been made in talks for both leaders to meet yet. President Zelensky, however, is hoping Vladimir Putin's frustration will pull him in.
Even though we hate these troops that are killing our people, if we want peace, we'll have to sit down and talk. The right word is negotiate. Negotiate, but not deliver ultimatums.
He's saying any concessions to Russia should be put to a referendum, asking his people what they'd be willing to sacrifice for the future of their country. For now, this war, and for one square in Kiev, the music goes on. James Waterhouse, BBC News in Kiev.
Well, in a moment we'll be talking to our chief international correspondent, Lise Doucette, in the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv. But first let's go to our security correspondent, Frank Gardner, who's in London. And Frank, we've seen so much death and destruction in the southern Ukrainian city of Mariupol in particular. Why is that city in particular so important to the Russian forces and to President Putin?
Well, let's be honest, Ben. Mariupol is a name that most of us had never heard of before this began, but it is going to go down in history as one of the most bombed.
He's MI5 or 6 that get shot or whatever in the field. So he's a gimp now, and then he became a bit behind the scenes. Right, there's just something quickly. And that I've literally done this right here, right there, doing it live, baby. I don't want to play it because BBC Newsnight is BBC World and you can get copyright strikes using their shit. So fuck you, Paxman! And every other prick on Newsnight. But you can see there that there's plenty of YouTube videos. There's Vice talking about the neo-Nazis in Western Ukraine. There's a lot of BBC's. But you will find a lot of outlets which now will ignore it and talk about Russia talking about denazifying Western Ukraine and taking care of these very people and getting rid of these very people are crazy. They're mental. They're making it up. It's Russian propaganda. Well, I dare say BBC Newsnight must have been spewing out Russian propaganda. That's 2014. 8 years ago. Must have been. BBC must have been spewing that shit out. And how quickly the narrative has to change. And it's just depending on what's going on with the wheres and theirs and whatnot. And tune in tonight for Not the Info Whores and Nightly News. Yeah. I'll be touching on that. And a lot more stuff around that. Righty-ho, let's get back to the BBC's. And Gimp Spy.
Destroyed cities
Spy the
in our
Gimps.
lifetime. It's right up there with Aleppo, Grozny, and before that Stalingrad. It's important for a number of reasons. It is
Shug, how you
the
doing,
city
my
that
man?
is blocking Russia from forming a land corridor between its forces in the Crimea and that have burst northward out of the Crimea, linking up with
Shug,
their
I want to get back
allies,
to the gym, but my
pro-Kremlin
gym's still
in the
you need
Donbass
book
region in eastern
schedules
Ukraine. They
book a
need to be able to
spot
make
and
that
book
corridor
time
in order
slots
to
and all
then
sorts of
free up
shit,
their forces and encircle the Ukrainian army in
I'll
the
need to
Donbass,
check up it,
where
actually,
they will
it's
be
been a
looking
while
to
since I've
annihilate
checked,
the regular
but
Ukrainian forces.
being a
But there's more than
fucking
just
council
that. It's an economic
fucking gym.
centre as well. It's a major port on the Sea of
It's
Azov.
fucked up, man.
And propaganda-wise, they can say, look, this city resisted to other cities. If you want to resist, this could happen to you. We'll pummel you into the ground.
Yes! Well, I'm gonna come down there. It's like WWF fucking talk. They're going to pummel you. They're going to bombard you. They're getting fucking fucked out. They're saying false flag, false flag. It's like listening to Alex Jones fucking 20 years ago, innit?
Frank, thank you. And to Lise Doucette. At least we've heard from President Zelensky talking to Italian MPs saying Ukraine is on the brink of surviving this war. Is that brave rhetoric?
Certainly a brave proclamation, and they matter in a war like this in terms of morale. But he also talked yet again. He does every day.
Remember, there's a £1.50 Iron Brew token for the person who can correctly name her accent.
About the need for peace talks, and we heard in this programme his suggestion of two ways out. You heard in that report from James Waterhouse talking about the need for...
I'm going to have to check in with my gym mate and make sure, see if it's back to normal. Because the sun's coming out! You know, it's getting to that kind of fucking weather. I jumped on the treadmill this morning and I'll be honest, because I still feel fucking... I'm still a bit nasally. And my energy levels just went like that. But I'll need to check it out, Shug. Anyway, let's get back to Bag Lady.
Compromise by all sides, and also talking about a referendum that would be on territorial issues. Those are the hardest issues of all. President Putin keeps telling Russians that this invasion won't end until all its plans have been met. What are the plans? Will he stop at Mariupol, as we just heard from Frank? Will he press on towards Odessa and completely cut Ukraine off from the Black Sea coast? And what about the capital, Kyiv? We have heard from Israeli and from Turkish negotiators that President Putin is no longer demanding a toppling of the Zelensky government. And yet today we hear that there's another front in the southeast, residents being urged to leave. So as this war...
Putin was like, this is when you know, right? For ages, the main Western press that your average citizen listens to has been ignoring the peace talks, right? And now they're coming out, right? And they're trying to, like, because basically what they need is they need the appearance of, like, the West need the appearance of Zelensky walking away with what he wanted and Putin making concessions and vice versa, right? Whether that's going to be the case or not, who knows? What I hear happening is Ukraine making all the concessions and Russia sticking to their three main principles that they wanted for day door. In the afternoon, Roberto. Israeli? I don't know, mate. What does an Israeli fucking accent sound like, man?
War draws ever closer to many places. Peace doesn't seem any closer.
All right, Lise, thank you very much. Lise Doucette there, our chief international correspondent. Well, the Ukraine...
Doucette? Which doesn't sound French.
The Ukrainian President's office has said there is a high risk of neighbouring Belarus launching an attack on the country to help Russia, its long-standing ally. But some Belarusian dissidents are already joining the war to fight alongside Ukrainian forces. Our correspondent in Poland, Mark Lowen, has been to meet some of them.
And who said they didn't want this shit escalating? Come on in, Foreign Legion! You know, Ukraine's winning this. Russia's troops are fucking don't know what's hurt them. They're really hitting the skids and all that. But Ukraine's welcoming any Tom, Dick and fucking Harry into the country. Here's a gun. Go and fight some Russians for us. Cheers.
A trial run for the terror they'll soon see for real. Recruits from Belarus train before they go to fight with Ukraine. Slavic brothers uniting against a common enemy, Putin's Russia. Pavel Kulazhanka came back from his life in New York to battle the Kremlin's forces, who are supported by President Lukashenko of Belarus.
Without independent and free Ukraine, there is no independent and free Belarus. I really admire Ukrainian nation. From the very beginning, we supported Ukrainians in their fight for freedom.
Fun.
And I'd like to have my Belarusian nation to be as strong and powerful as Ukrainians right now.
Do you think Lukashenko will send Belarusian troops into Ukraine?
Hope so, because if he sends someone to Ukrainian soil, we will destroy them on Ukrainian territory first, and then we won't have a lot of problems with our comeback to our motherland.
For these dissidents, it's in part a proxy war against a regime at home that's made Belarus a launchpad for Russian attacks on Ukraine. 30,000 Russian troops advancing from there to Kiev. They'll also take in supplies and what they hope they won't have to use. And then a crash course in first aid by a Polish veteran of Afghanistan. The tourniquets and bandages of that vicious...
Fuck's sake, man, they're picking up every leftover mercenary Tom, Dick and Harry for Afghanistan and Iraq.
Conflict, now a part of life in Europe.
Just hours before leaving, they're learning the vital lessons that could save their lives. And when you look around, you...
I've got a lesson to teach yous. Stay at fucking home and stop going and playing soldiers in fucking other countries.
See that these are just ordinary guys, mainly, who are suddenly preparing for what it would be like entering a theatre of war when they cross tonight.
For all their jingoism and unity, the facade cracks as reality hits.
I'm afraid.
I saw you speaking to your mum earlier.
Yeah, she's crying. But now she's just pray, maybe. She tried to tell me that this war is not mine, it's not our, that it's other country, other people, but I don't agree.
So they head off to someone else's war, which has become their own. Both countries.
So does it look like Roberto's getting £1.50 worth of Iron Brew vouchers? It's the consensus she's got is an Israeli accent. We need to hear the
imperial oppressor. They travel from Warsaw to war, hours first to the border. A final sip of safety before a crossing off limits to our camera. Their sights set on victory for two nations in arms. Mark Lowen, BBC News on the Poland-Ukraine border.
And that is all from me and the team in Lviv, here in Western Ukraine. I'll hand you back now to the studio in London.
Woohoo! Back to London!
Thank you very much. A Russian court has sentenced the jailed opposition leader Alexei Navalny to 9 years in a maximum security prison for what the prosecutors call embezzlement. Mr Navalny leads an anti-corruption foundation that claims...
What the prosecutors call embezzlement? They're not calling it embezzlement. They've prosecuted him for embezzlement. What kind of weird fucking world would the prosecutors have called embezzlement? No, they've not called it embezzlement. They've actually prosecuted him for fucking embezzlement. Fucking shitty wordsmith gangsters.
President Putin has illegally acquired a fortune worth billions of dollars, including a huge palace and one of the world's largest yachts. As our Moscow correspondent Caroline Davies reports, the leading Kremlin critic's 9-year sentence is an extension to the 2.5-year prison term he's already serving.
This was Alexei Navalny's last moment as a free man. Arrested at the airport as he arrived back in Russia in 2021. With a kiss to his wife, he was taken by the Russian authorities. The Kremlin critic is already behind bars. Wearing black prison uniform, he heard today's verdict from his jail. Guilty of embezzlement and 9 years in a maximum security penal colony. These were the anti-corruption protests Mr. Navalny led. The man who'd been one of President Putin's fiercest critics has always maintained the legal case against him was political, as have many in the West. In 2020, he was poisoned using Novichok and left for treatment in Germany. He chose to return to Russia. Now many of his allies have left the country, afraid of what might happen if they stay. More media sites are banned day by day here in Russia.
See, man, she's kind of good looking and elfy wee creature. I was going to say Elmo, that's the wrong thing. Gizmo kind of way. Is it Gizmo? Mogwai? Ah, fuck. My gremlin. Education is failing me right now. You know what I mean? You could get a bag on her head, pin those ears back. Get a bit of your fringe, get rid of that big massive forehead. Scrub up quite nicely.
The company that owns Facebook and Instagram has been declared an extremist organisation, and
I'm only
both sites
joking,
have
man.
been
That's
blocked.
terrible.
And the introduction of a new law that means that anything deemed to be false information about the military can result in jail time has led to many independent journalists leaving the country. The window that many Russians have on the outside world is virtually closed.
The laws in Russia.
Whereas, suppose our window to what's happening in Russia is completely opened. If you want to see the BBC's version of it, that is.
They were strict and draconian before the war, and they became even worse after the war.
Farida Rostamova is an independent Russian journalist. She was out of the country when Russia launched its special military operation and chose never to return. She's too afraid to say where she's now based.
I'm afraid of physical assault. I'm afraid of going to jail for words. The only thing that is allowed is propaganda. I'm absolutely sure that this is just the beginning, and things are going to get worse.
Would you think the 2022 the word of the year should be propaganda? A false flag, maybe. The bringing around into the mainstream and the general lexicon of the populace the word false flag. Typically only used in the circles of Alex Jones and conspiracy nuts. The word false flag has now been lodged right up there in the excellencies of everybody's consciousness. To the extent where world leaders are now out there spewing false flag, false flag, false flag. Because basically it covers all bases. I mean, like, for example, the West coming out and saying this false flag shit that they're saying today. Now, if nothing happens, chemical or biologically speaking, they can come out and claim victory and go, yay, we put Putin off. Our pointing to it and saying, hey, he's going to do a false flag. Made the false flag harder to do, so he didn't do a false flag. Or, if chemical weapons get used by any side, no matter where the evidence points to, they can come out and say it was Putin. mental, man. It's mental. It's just like, it's like, what would you call it? Priming the war field, war zone, field of war. Priming it, getting it ready.
Daring to disagree is increasingly dangerous in Russia. With each protest, the crowds shrink. With each week.
Whereas as opposed to over here in the UK, when you see all the protests, nothing like that happens at all. No, nothing at all.
There are fewer journalists to cover them, and anything that contradicts the Kremlin. President Putin's regime knows that fear can breed silence. Caroline Davis, BBC News, Moscow.
The Russian billionaire Alisher Usmanov says he no longer owns many of his UK properties that once belonged to him. That could leave them beyond the reach of government sanctions. They included a multi-million-pound mansion in North London and a Tudor manor house in Surrey. It raises serious questions about the effectiveness of sanctions imposed since the invasion of Ukraine began, as Andy Verity reports.
What? Rich motherfuckers finding ways round these dumbass fucking sanctions? I'm shocked!
He's been described as one of President Putin's favourite oligarchs. Alisher Usmanov is said to be worth an estimated $18.4 billion and used to own nearly a third of Arsenal. 3 weeks ago, the government announced it was freezing all his UK assets. But how effective will those sanctions really be? Mr. Usmanov's $600 million yacht was reportedly seized in Hamburg, but the German authorities later denied that. Days later, the UK government targeted 2 huge properties in the south of England. Beechwood House in North London, now estimated to be worth about £80 million, and also a Tudor manor house in Surrey, once owned by the world's then richest man, Paul Getty.
This gilded gate behind me is as close as the public can get to Sutton Place, one of the assets the government says Alisher Usmanov has bought with his billions. But he says he's given away much of his estate, and that raises serious questions as to how the government's going to enforce its sanctions.
Mr. Usmanov has now said his assets were transferred long ago into irrevocable trusts, and from that point on he didn't own them. But an investigation by the BBC, The Guardian and the Organised Crime and Corruption Reporting Project has found that the trusts holding Sutton Place and Beechwood House have been linked to Mr. Usmanov and one of his closest business associates. Campaigners say it shows how difficult it is to establish who the owners of assets actually are when they're hidden in offshore tax havens.
Hide all this shit.
Well, the problem is that whilst the government has introduced legislation in recent days to try and go after the suspect assets of individuals, say, linked to the Kremlin or corruption cases in Russia, it's going to be doing this with one hand tied behind its back because of the secrecy jurisdictions in the overseas territories and the crown dependencies.
The government says sanctions are having an impact, saying Mr. Usmanov cannot access his assets and it's now illegal for any person or company in the UK to do business with him. Andy Verity, BBC News.
The time is 17 minutes past 1. Our top story this lunchtime. President Biden warns that Vladimir Putin may use chemical or biological weapons in Ukraine because his back is against the wall. And still to come, we're in...
That is news nowadays. Remember when news used to report facts based on things that fucking happened and that the reporters have found out or fucking uncovered or report... They used to report on shit. Now it's just Biden says because his back's against the... What the fuck does that fucking mean? Absolutely sweet Fanny Adams. It's nothing.
Stoke with...
Fucking ramblings of a senile old fucking little girl sniffing man.
Local legend Neil Baldwin as his marvellous life is brought to the stage.
Roberto, I'm surprised he's no fucking transferred it all to his African charities. You know, like the footballers do.
Coming up on the BBC News channel, Manchester City and Liverpool supporters unite to get their FA Cup semi-final move.
La 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 la.
away from Wembley due to travel difficulties facing fans with no direct trains to the capital on the weekend of the game.
Rescuers at the site of a plane crash in southern China have found burnt wreckage and personal belongings of those on board, but no sign of any survivors. China Eastern Flight MU 5735 was carrying 132 people when it nosedived 30,000 feet into hills in Guangxi.
There's got to be videos out there already telling you who was on there. People researching AIDS, cancer, viruses. Some corona links will be thrown into the mix, no doubt.
But there is little hope of survivors. The Boeing 737-800 thought to have nosedived from 30,000 feet, killing all 132 people on board. Investigations hampered by difficult terrain.
The road to the accident site is very narrow. Cars can't get through, and we have to transfer supplies, send and pick up people there. Motorcycles are more convenient, but small cars would block the road.
Method man, I heard people talking about Hunter's, Joe Biden and Hunter's laptop turning out to be real. If you can, mate, can you elaborate on that story, man? I must have missed it. I must have blinked and I missed it. Maybe he's got a convertible Bond.
Rescuers have found pieces of the aircraft spread across these hills and personal belongings too. China said hundreds of flights had been cancelled and some planes grounded while they look into why the aircraft came down. Families of the 123 passengers and 9 crew on board are still waiting for news, many gathering together at the airport where the plane took off before suffering what officials have described as a loss of control event. Flight tracker data shows the jet dropped 20,000 feet in just over 2 minutes. The aircraft's black box and cockpit voice recorder are yet to be recovered. Boeing, the US maker of the plane, said it is assisting in the investigation. The task now to find out what caused the plane to nosedive into the hillside here yesterday morning, China's worst air disaster in more than a decade.
I know what you mean, T2. It's not a case of being a fan of Russia. I mean, I'm certainly not a fan of Russia. It's been more annoyed at kind of people who are meant to be your own side treating you like a mental midget, like a child. You know, it basically like trying to convince you Santa's real. And you're like, no, fucking Santa's not real. Just tell me the fucking truth. You're like, no, Santa's real. That woman that came home from Iran was just there being a teacher. Even though Boris Johnson came out in public, on TV, live on TV, it's everywhere, came out, had to apologise for it, came out and admitted she was a spy. She's not a spy. When's a spy not a spy? When we just continue to lie to you. Barefaced in the fucking... how can they... I don't know how they can do that. It's insulting. I can't sit there and just... Maybe if I was... Maybe they'll need to put me on the payroll. And then I can shut the fuck up. But if I'm not on the payroll and not getting paid to shut the fuck up, I'm only shut the fuck up. Sit there and pretend that I didn't hear and know the truth that she was a spy and that's why she was jailed in fucking Iran.
Andrew Plant, BBC News.
A 17-month-old girl who died after she was attacked by a dog in Merseyside has been named as...
Oh God, that's fucking tragic, man. Oh man. It's fucking horrible when you hear that, man. I'm not a fan of dogs that you get the impression could batter you. What can I say?
On Bidston Avenue during the day today.
Calm down. Hunter's laptop. I think it shows money coming from Ukraine, tax evasion. New York Times got their Twitter shut down initially because it was Russian disinformation. I'll need to get up to date with that method, man. I heard can't remember. I heard a podcast I was listening to talking about it. You get up to speed on that. But bad boys still the
hospital,
dog.
But that is where.
Yeah. And I'm obviously censoring that because I'm deep state Illuminati. It's just I'm sick of hearing about dogs eating young kids. Very preventable, I would argue, but what do you do? There's folks out there that don't treat dogs or bring dogs up properly, and they've got the ability to act like arseholes, if not just genetically disposition.
100 members of staff without notice. Many were told via a pre-recorded video message. Ministers will then consider.
It's brilliant, isn't it, man? It's like fucking dumping a girlfriend on via text message. This is the employer version of it. P&O just turning round and telling them bye bye.
Whether the company broke the law by failing to follow clear rules on making people redundant. Well, our transport correspondent Katie Austin joins us now. So Katie, what exactly has the company been asked to explain?
Well, on Friday, the business secretary wrote to the chief executive of P&O Ferries. He said the insolvency service was looking into whether rules had or hadn't been followed, where employers have to give advance notice if they are planning to make large numbers of staff redundant. Failing to notify as required is actually a criminal offence that can result in an unlimited fine.
Check out
the
Jimmy
business secretary
Dore.
also asked P&O.
Mate, for some reason that name rings a bell. I've obviously came across him in some capacity, but Jimmy Dore.
To address 10 specific questions. I won't list them all,
Alrighty,
but
Alan,
they
how you
include
doing, my
what
man?
other options were considered, where the fired staff were
Remember,
working, where
Alan,
ships are
everybody
registered,
stick a wee
details around
thumbs up.
contracts, and whether anyone made
Helps me sleep
redundant
at
has
night.
been offered similar roles on different terms and conditions.
Alan, is it the P&Os that you use, mate, or have to use? Or is your shit getting fucked up?
I understand it is P&O's intention to respond by that 5 p.m. deadline. For now, though, although the Liverpool-Dublin route has resumed, most of P&O Ferries ships are going nowhere for the time being as they prepare to try and set sail again with their replacement agency crew. They can't do that until
I'll
they've
need to
had
check 'em out,
safety
Method Man.
inspections by the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, and the first of those inspections is now underway, we've just learned, on the Pride of Hull ferry. But it's still not clear exactly how long that inspection will take, and if it's passed, how long it will then be before this ferry and others are back into service.
Katie, thank you very much. Katie Austin, our transport correspondent.
I know,
The Duke
Rebecca,
and Duchess
man.
of Cambridge.
I know, mate, they're what bastards, man. I mean, literally overnight, fucking letting off people that had been worked there for like 20 odd years and shit, man. And do you know, mate, I was zoning out there, so I didn't hear the full report. I don't know if the report touched on it. Do you know what they're doing? They've sacked out all the British workers, and now they've got to get a bunch of fucking Portuguese and Asian and... was it Chinese? I think there might even been some Russians in there as well, just to demonise them a wee bit more, man. Oh, fuck, so you think your ferries are going to get fecked as well, Alan? You're going to have to learn to swim better, buddy. Get a rubber ring. Get a rubber dinghy, mate. Mate, see, you could save money and just buy yourself a boat. That's doable, man. Might kill yourself a few times, but hey, what's wrong with that?
Will travel to Jamaica later as part of their tour.
Yeah, man! We're speaking about yeah, man!
Paid tribute
No,
to Ukrainians
Jamaica, man!
fighting for their homeland during a visit to a British military training camp in the jungle of Belize. Our Royal correspondent, Johnny Diamond, reports.
Learning about another world, another civilization, way up in the hills of Belize.
If you're looking for...
Well, Method Man, the rumour goes, and to be honest, it's not something I've scratched beneath the surface too much, but a few stories I've heard about the P&O thing is, as you said, there was a bunch of the workers that refused to leave, and P&O apparently sent on security to remove them, and the security were like balaclava wearing motherfuckers. I don't think they had quite submachine guns and all that, but obviously security, big fucking meatheads, probably wearing all the protective shit so they look like a security guard for a shopping mall. Where's Betty? What is happening with Active Patriot, Alan? Is he still about? Is he still out and about? Just the way YouTube works now, man. You don't get to see the same variety of people you used to see. I used to see the way I used to navigate through it. She's died. Where's Betty? Who's Betty?
For historical perspective, there are worse places to find it than a Mayan temple. The British monarchy has been around for 1,000 years. But this place, it's been around for 3,000. Think of what it's seen.
And now they came to see it.
See the view?
To gain a better understanding and to catch sight of the country they're visiting.
It's absolutely the eyes are right on. Stoked, you know, so.
Wonder if you could sneak in there at night time and fucking top of the fucking on the pyramid, man. And you're only there once. If you're there with your missus, man, you're going to want to go and pump and tap at the pyramid, aren't you? Is that just me? With a full moon. Oh! Howling at the top of the pyramid, man, that'd be business.
They're not the only Brits enjoying Belize's hospitality. The army uses the jungle to teach its soldiers survival skills.
How we get going to figure out.
Oh, so basically it's a fucking British outpost. We've got some fucking token wee brown cunt in a grass skirt. The thinks he's in charge.
The Duke was here more than 20 years ago, but now was a chance to brush up his knowledge on how to trap a monkey in the wild.
We'll go all the way down.
Most of all, in the jungle, you need water.
Betty's
the couple was shown ingenious ways to gather the stuff, then given a chance to try out one of nature's water dispensers.
No, just keep it up and water will be, you know.
Little bark at it.
Yeah. That's of your arms by your side, stood to attention.
This was a reunion of sorts. The commanding officer here was William's Sergeant Major when he trained at Sandhurst.
Is that where you get the
Now
Gurkhas for the
it was
police?
time to say thanks to his old trainee.
You know, you're 5,500 miles from the UK here. You can feel slightly isolated. We're in the middle of the jungle. So the fact that they take, you know, time out of their busy schedules, which are extremely busy, to come and visit us, means a lot.
Afternoon, Paul.
You probably sense the buzz of excitement around the place. It's not every day young soldiers get to interact with royals.
Last night at a reception for the couple, William directly addressed the invasion of Ukraine. He quoted the Queen talking about the vigilance needed to protect democracies.
Sadly, elsewhere in the world, that vigilance
is being tested today in Ukraine. Belize has joined many others in condemning the invasion and standing up for the principles of international law, peace and security. Today we think of those struggling in Ukraine.
He's definitely got his dad's hairline anyway, that's for fucking sure.
From the Royals, it doesn't get much blunter than that. The couple head for their next stop, Jamaica, later today. Johnny Diamond.
She's got like a fucking pure cheap 1980s fucking karaoke dress on, isn't she? Or like Eurovision. Eurovision? Is that a thing? Eurovision, aye. The more I say it, the weirder it sounds.
BBC News, Belize.
Having your life turned into a film or a play is usually a right reserved for celebrities or politicians, but it was Neil Baldwin's heartwarming approach to life that saw him make friends in high places and have his story told to the world.
Good method,
Actor Toby Jones played Neil in the BAFTA award-winning film Marvellous, and now it's being adapted for the stage, as our arts correspondent David Silito has been finding out.
Marvellous.
What is this? What is this, George? Thank you, George. It seems to be a chicken, George.
What you're watching is a scene from a show that's become rather a hit here at the New Vic in Stoke.
Oh, God almighty. Oh, I know Kirk's that ship has sailed for some time now, innit? Do any of you remember? I don't know if Princess Diana had died, right? But basically, her butler was going through court, Paul Burrell, and if my memory serves, he was going through court because he was alleged to, or the allegation was that he stole jewellery or some shit, some Diana's stuff. Somehow he got alleged to steal it and he was in court. And who's Rab? Kips. What the fuck? I'm confused. Oh, right, no, right. Who's comb over? Who's Kips? Shut up, mate, man. My comb over fucking rocks.
He was his best ever signing.
I didn't know what I was going to do to give him I didn't know what job I was going to give him. So I spent the weekend thinking, what better job can I give him than being the man who's going to keep everybody happy? Because he told me he was always happy, never sad. He brought what I hoped he would bring to a football club, laughter, joy.
Oh, I've missed the boat here. Trying to decipher use cunts taking piss out of my comb over. What do you mean? I've no, it's not a comb over.
What's its message?
The message is to be happy in life. Happiness, what Ken sang.
Oh, is this guy for reals?
And always think of everybody else.
Oh my God, this is an old guy. I'm surprised the BBC's allowed an old guy like this on. Bet you if you allowed him to speak for more than 3.5 minutes, he would trigger about fucking 90% of the BBC viewership.
And I'm glad I've had a good life.
David Silito, BBC News, the home of marvellous Neil Baldwin, Newcastle under Lyme.
Anything's possible. Time for a look at the weather forecast, and Stav is here. Now, I always ask you where your picture's from. Can you tell me today?
I'm much better prepared. Much better. It's a gorgeous photograph, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty much sums up what the weather is across the UK at the moment. Good afternoon to you. It's a glorious Weather Watcher photo behind me, very spring-like indeed, sent in by one of our weather watchers
instead of lovely deep blue up here.
And those blue skies overhead are pretty much
But I'm a happy chappy. My lift recently got fixed so I can get back out on my bike again. Just need to pump up those tyres and get rid of this shit, man. As I said, man, I went on the treadmill this morning and just... energy just died on me, man. But I'll test myself tomorrow. And I'll be all good, I'm sure. So, thanks for joining, everybody. Tune in tonight for Not the InfoWars Nightly News, the original, the OG, baby. Alternative look at the so-called alternative media. Skeptical. With the spectacles, even though the sunglasses, about the so-called skeptics, and watching the so-called motherfucking watchmen. Because somebody's got to do it. So tune in tonight at 9 o'clock. I'll be doing that. Make sure you thumbs it up. It's much appreciated. As I said, it makes me get my beauty sleep, even though I don't need it. Just makes me look a wee bit younger and more beautiful, and I already do. So make sure you thumbs it up, it's much appreciated, and tune in tonight. Look out your window for the weather report, I know, Roberto. And up here it depends which side of the building you're on. Alright, Alan, mate, you take care too, buddy. Hopefully catch you tonight. If you're no curled up with a good book and your missus. A good missus. Roberto, Paul, Method Man, in the afternoon, gents. T2 was in as well, thank you for joining. Kirks was in. Shug. Stewie was in, thank you, Stewie, Shug. Stephen Joseph Blanchard. Media is serving as the fifth column. Talking about that, if anybody that's hung around, what the fuck's happened with the UK column? Have they died? Are they still about? Is Garish still a person? Is he still a human? Is he transformed? You know, my nose actually feels worse today than it did yesterday for some weird reason. Oh. Does anybody know what happened to the UK column? Oh, oh. I'm seeing if I can get if anybody knows what's happened to the UK column. Somebody must know. They just fell off the radar. Oh, man. Oh. Watery eyes. Because of a fucked up nose. If you get me. Oh, man. Well, tonight will be 7 days since I felt the first tingle. Part man, part necktie. Right, I'm going to Google it myself. Well, they appear to still have a web page. Oh, they're done there, still kicking around.
Yeah. Oh, look, they're over on... Is that Rumble? I think that's Rumble. Oh, wow, they're still... Yes, great, Gary, she's still alive.
22, just after 1 o'clock. Welcome to UK Column News. Your host today, Mike Robinson, myself, Brian Gerrish.
Oh, man.
We're delighted to be joined by Dave.
Oh, I'm delighted to know that you guys are indeed. Right, let's hear. A wee bit. Wardrobe bankrupted the UK column.
It's Monday, the 21st of March, 2022, just after 1 o'clock.
Garish, I'm fucking surprised you're still alive, man.
Your host today, Mike Robinson, myself,
you paranoid old fuck.
We're delighted to be joined by David Scott, bringing us northern exposure from north of the border. And
northern exposure is nothing. Northerns. We'll go to a guy.
On with
hold on, I don't think you can pause.
Have TASS reporting that Ukrainian and Russian delegations to resume talks today, but these are online.
TASS,
so an online meeting between the Ukrainian and Russian delegations is planned for the 21st of March. So this is according to so-called high-ranking sources. We will see how that goes. We'll come on to Boris Johnson in a second because he's clearly wanting to put as many spanners in the works as possible. But here he is. I spoke to Zelensky this afternoon. This was tweeted out
they're
yesterday,
doing show notes
to set out how I'll be working to advance Ukraine's interests at meetings of NATO and the G7 this week. The UK will continue to step up military, economic and diplomatic support to help bring an end to this terrible conflict. So in time for that, the Ministry of Defence released this little video clip showing all the things that the UK is doing. So those nasty Russians are all around Ukraine, but don't worry because the UK is not going near the place. We're sending, a few troops, a couple of aircraft. I mean,
but trainers, what we want to do is train other people to do the killing and the dying for us, is what we're doing, Mike.
But Estonia, Poland and so on, we're not actually... and we've got an aircraft carrier in the
I wonder if they broadcast live on it.
A destroyer in the Mediterranean, where, by the way, the destroyers don't work, right? So I'm not entirely sure exactly what a great contribution we're making.
Well, not much is the answer because the UK's military has been almost reduced to its knees, despite the denials by the UK government and the Ministry of Defence.
Yes. Over to the United States and CBS News here. Transcript Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin on the Face of the Nation yesterday.
Mike's still a fan of
So what was he saying? He was asked about Russia's use of hypersonic missiles, of course, used for the first time. Was it on Friday? On Saturday. And he said, I don't see this as a game changer.
Really?
I think, again, the reason that Putin, in other words, is resorting to using these types of weapons is because he's trying to re-establish some momentum. Is that how you see it?
No, I don't see it at all, Mike. The Russians, on their own initiative, went ahead and developed these weapons, and they've done so successfully. America is now left in the dust. They've tried it, but haven't got hypersonic weapons into their arsenal. So the Americans well behind. And of course, if any other country takes a lead in military matters, then they're going to get the full force of bad press. So why has Putin done it? Because he's got it. He's also making a statement to the West that he has these missiles, but the West doesn't have a capability to counter them.
So here's Associated Press, republished by the Mail Online. Ukraine war's backdrop in US push for hypersonic weapons. So there's an acknowledgement here that they don't have them. So Russia's hypersonic weapons.
Now, I want to pause that there and bring this into the realm of UFOs, believe it or not. Now, they're talking about Russia having in their operating arsenal these hypersonic missiles, which, as they're saying, the West has no anti-air, if that's right, the right way of phrasing it, I don't know, defences to counter that, because they move so fast. Now, that's not to say that they're not developing it. They've not got prototypes, so on and so forth. Now, freeze that there for a second and think back to maybe in the last 2 years, definitely last 2-3 years, there was the footage that was brought out of the UFOs released by the American military, showing without doubt UFOs. It was even on like ITV, BBC. Why are they showing these pictures and stuff like that? If you listened to skeptical people trying to interpret and understand that instead of jumping down the UFO little green man rabbit hole, a lot of that I heard one dude pull it apart using all the technical information that was obviously available on the screen, broke it down, and what it was as Americans tracking birds. So, and the whole purpose of releasing that and the way that it did was to show off to the other side's military, whether it be the Chinese, the Russians, or whoever. We now have the ability to track items that A, move that fast, and B, are that small. Like to track drones and stuff like that. Whether stuff like that can be used to track and thus hit hypersonic missiles and stuff, who knows? I have no idea. But no doubt the West are trying to think of shit like that.
Using the Ukraine war as a background on the desperate effort by the US military to catch up with Russia, the focus is on the US Navy's decision to install hypersonic weapons on the Zumwalt class stealth destroyers. And of course, this was because the stealth destroyers had a
method man. I fell down the rabbit hole,
which eventually became too expensive.
Fell down the rabbit hole of a UK column and wanted to see if Brian Gerrish was still alive. But now that I know he's still alive, I'll be able to sleep easy at night. So not only that, put some extra Z's on, thumbs it up, it's much appreciated. Tune in tonight at 9 o'clock for Not the Infowars Nightly News, and tune in tomorrow at 1 o'clock afternoon, or 10 to 1 in the afternoon for another Wag the Dog news. Alrighty, boob tubes, thanks everybody for tuning in. I'll hopefully see you tonight. Take it easy, y'all. Catchies. Keeps clips. And remember, citizens, always subscribe and hit the bell. Everything will be well in 1995. Plus shipping and handling will keep you out of hell. Why does a dog wag its tail? Because a dog is smarter than its tail. If the tail were smarter, the tail would wag the dog. Wag the dog in politics is the act of creating diversion from a damaging issue. Here at Wag the Dog News, the tail doesn't wag the dog. Enjoy. Keeps clip. And remember, citizens, always subscribe. Hit the bell, everything will be well. 1995. Plus shipping and handling will keep you out of hell.